Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel.
Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into some of the most jaw-dropping, heart-wrenching, and absolutely game-changing developments coming up in General Hospital on Tuesday, February 25th, 2025. If you thought things were dramatic before, buckle up, because Port Charles is about to be turned upside down. Relationships are shifting, secrets are coming to light, and life-altering choices are being made, some of which might not have an easy way out. Let's break down what's happening, what it could mean for our favorite characters, and why this episode is about to shake everything up. Trina's emotional turmoil. Sorting through her feelings for Kai. One of the biggest questions surrounding Trina this week is the confusion she's feeling over her emotions for Kai. For weeks, she's been caught in an internal struggle, trying to understand what exactly she wants. Are these genuine romantic feelings she's experiencing, or is she simply looking for comfort during a time of chaos in her life? With everything that's happened recently, she hasn't had the chance to truly process what she's feeling. With Joss completely distracted by her own issues, and we'll get to that in a bit, Trina needs someone to talk to. She might find herself turning to Stella, who has always been a source of wisdom and guidance. Stella is no stranger to complicated matters of the heart, and if anyone can offer a dose of reality, it's her. But will Trina be ready to hear what she has to say? If Trina opens up, it could lead to some tough realizations. Is she ready to commit to Kai? Or will she decide that now isn't the right time for a relationship? Kai, for his part, has been nothing but patient with Trina. He's given her space, supported her, and never pushed for answers she wasn't ready to give. But patience can only last for so long. How much longer will Kai wait before deciding it's time to walk away? If Trina doesn't make up her mind soon, she could risk losing him altogether. Ava's battle for control. A surprise visitor changes everything. If you thought Ava was finally catching a break, think again. Yes, she's managed to win back 50% custody of Avery, and yes, her connection with Rick is growing stronger. For the first time in a long while, she feels like she has something steady to hold on to. But the moment Ava lets her guard down, something, or someone, always seems to swoop in and threaten her peace. The biggest thorn in her side right now? Christina. Ava has worked hard to regain trust, but Christina refuses to see her as anything other than a destructive force. She doesn't believe Ava should be raising any child, let alone have shared custody of Avery. This has created a deep rift, and tensions are only getting worse. Then, the unexpected happens. A surprise visitor arrives. But who is it? Could it be Christina, ready for another confrontation? Or is it someone from Ava's past, someone with unfinished business? The last thing Ava needs is another battle to fight, but if this visitor comes bearing news that threatens the fragile stability she's built, she may have no choice but to stand her ground. Could this person force Ava to confront something she's been avoiding? Could this be a test of how far she's come? Whatever happens, one thing is clear, Ava's story is far from over. Sunny and Laura's uneasy truce, a strategic partnership? Few relationships in Port Charles have been as complicated as the one between Sunny and Laura. Not too long ago, Laura made it perfectly clear she wanted nothing more to do with Sunny. She drew a line in the sand, told him their friendship was over, and warned him not to rely on her for anything. So why are they suddenly on the same side again? The answer may lie in the Port Charles Esplanade, a massive project that has sparked power struggles, hidden agendas, and more than a few enemies. With Drew Kane Quartermain and Jen Sidwell scheming behind the scenes, Sunny needs to play the game carefully. Could this uneasy truce with Laura be part of a bigger strategy? Beyond politics, there's also a personal side to this. Sunny is deeply concerned about Lucky's condition. Given everything that's happened, he needs to know what's next. Could Lucky's fate be a key reason Sunny and Laura are coming back together? One thing's for sure, this alliance is fragile. If Sunny makes one wrong move, Laura could cut ties again. But if they can put their differences aside, they might just find that they need each other more than they realized. Dante's harsh truth. Cyrus is missing. Port Charles is in for a major shock when Dante delivers devastating news. The search for Cyrus took a dramatic turn when Dante and the PCPD tracked him to Austin Gatlin Holt's cabin, only to find it wiped completely clean. Not a single clue, not a single trace. Cyrus is gone. Now, Dante has to break the news to someone who will be completely blindsided, Alexis. But what exactly does he tell her? Rumors are swirling that Cyrus may have been responsible for Sam's death. If that's the case, Alexis will be beyond devastated. But without solid proof, what can she do? If Cyrus truly is missing, that means he's out there, somewhere, waiting to strike again. Port Charles isn't safe, not until he's found. Jocelyn's moment of reckoning, a life-changing decision, and now, we come to the biggest twist of all. Jocelyn is completely shaken by the events that have unfolded. The weight of what she's done is pressing down on her, suffocating her. She killed Cyrus. Sure, it was self-defense, but that doesn't make it any easier to live with. Worst of all, Cyrus' final words haunt her. Now, you're the murderer. No matter how hard she tries, she can't unhear them. She can't shake the feeling that something inside her has changed. This isn't just about what happened, it's about who she is now. But that's not the only thing consuming her mind. Brennan has been manipulating her all along. Every clue, every mystery, every nudge toward the truth, it was all part of his plan. He's been grooming her for the WSB. Now, he's made her an offer, become an agent. This is a crossroads moment for Jocelyn. Does she embrace the path Brennan has set for her? Does she use her sharp instincts and newfound toughness to serve a greater cause? Or does she walk away, trying to reclaim the life she had before? Either way, there's no turning back. Final thoughts, what comes next? Tuesday's episode is about to drop some massive bombshells. Will Trina finally admit her feelings for Kai, or will she let him slip away? Who is Ava's mysterious visitor, and will it change everything for her? Is Sunny really back on good terms with Laura, or is this just a short-lived alliance? How will Alexis handle the truth about Cyrus and Sam? And finally, what will Jocelyn do? Will she become a WSB agent, or will she walk away from everything? Next, we have a whirlwind of drama to break down in Port Charles, and trust me, you don't want to miss this. Secrets are being exposed, unexpected alliances are forming, and some of our favorite characters are standing at emotional crossroads that could redefine their futures. From family betrayals to shocking confessions, let's dive into everything that's happening this week. Drew and Jason, a sibling showdown that cuts deep. The long-standing tension between Jason and Drew has finally boiled over into a confrontation that neither of them will soon forget. Jason, in what seemed like an attempt to call a truce, proposed they put their differences aside for the sake of their children, Danny and Scout. He argued that the siblings deserve to grow up knowing each other, to be a part of each other's lives despite whatever bad blood exists between their fathers. But Drew was having none of it. The pain of growing up without the Quartermain family, the resentment of watching Jason be handed a life he never had, and the frustration of always coming second, all of it erupted in a fury. He threw Jason's words right back at him, questioning his sudden dedication to family after years of causing heartache. Drew's voice was laced with bitterness as he reflected on the life he might have had if Susan Moore had chosen him instead of Jason. Would he have been raised as a Quartermaine? Would he have had the family love that Jason always seemed to push away? And then, the ultimate rejection. Drew made it clear that he wanted nothing to do with Jason or the Quartermaines. He declared that Scout had everything she needed with him, Willow, and her kids. He didn't need Jason, and neither did she. The final blow? Drew literally threw Jason out of his home, making it clear that, in his eyes, Jason was no longer welcome in his life. Was Jason truly trying to make amends, or was this just another one of his half-hearted attempts at making things right? More importantly, will Drew regret cutting him out completely? Sasha and Tracy's tense conversation, Quartermaine legacy at stake. Over in the Quartermaine kitchen, Tracy had an agenda, and she wasn't about to let Sasha off the hook easily. As Sasha made tea, she casually, or perhaps not so casually, mentioned that a private investigator had been snooping around. Sasha, always quick to put the pieces together, guessed that the PI was digging for dirt on Michael, likely on behalf of Willow's lawyer. Tracy, impressed by her sharp thinking, confirmed the suspicion with a simple good guess. But then, the conversation took a sharp turn into deeply personal territory. Tracy, never one to mince words, outright asked Sasha if her baby was Jason's, and if that meant marriage was on the horizon. Sasha, taken aback, wasn't sure whether to be amused or offended. Was Tracy genuinely curious, or was she fishing for information to protect the Quartermaine legacy? Tracy's response made things crystal clear. If the baby was Jason's, then it was a Quartermaine, and that meant something, whether Sasha liked it or not. Sasha stood her ground, making it clear that she wanted nothing from the Quartermaines. She planned to raise her baby on her own, without their wealth, influence, or interference. But Tracy, always one step ahead, pointed out that Quartermaine blood came with expectations, and history had proven that avoiding the Quartermaine name was nearly impossible. Could Sasha really keep the Quartermaines out of her child's life? Or would fate pull them into the fold whether she wanted it or not? Brooke Lynn's shocking confession to Chase. In a moment of raw honesty, Brooke Lynn opened up to Chase about a painful secret she had kept buried for years. Sitting in their room at the Quartermaine mansion, she hesitantly revealed that she had once had a baby, back in high school. But that wasn't the shocking part. What truly stunned Chase was the fact that she had given the baby up for adoption and never looked back. She explained that, at the time, she was just a scared teenager, completely unprepared to be a mother. The only person who knew the truth was her mother, Lois, who had taken charge of the situation and made all the arrangements. To protect Brooke Lynn from judgment and further stress, Lois handled everything, including making sure the rest of the family never found out. What was most heartbreaking? Brooke Lynn never even saw her baby. She didn't know if she had given birth to a boy or a girl. It was a decision she had made quickly, but not lightly. And now, years later, it was a choice that still haunted her. Chase, ever the understanding and compassionate partner, reassured her that he didn't judge her. He knew that she had done what she felt was right in that moment, but he also understood how difficult it must have been to carry this secret alone. But Brooke Lynn, still riddled with guilt, wasn't convinced. Looking at Chase with tears in her eyes, she asked the question that had been weighing on her heart, "Aren't you angry with me?" How will this revelation change their relationship? Will Chase see her differently, or will this be a turning point that brings them even closer together? Final thoughts, what's next for Port Charles? This week in General Hospital has been an emotional roller coaster, with major revelations and heated confrontations shaking up the lives of our favorite characters. Drew and Jason's relationship has reached a breaking point, Sasha is fiercely guarding her independence despite Tracy's looming presence, and Brooke Lynn has finally unburdened herself of a secret that could change everything. But where do we go from here? Will Drew ever reconsider his harsh stance on Jason? Is Sasha truly ready to take on motherhood alone, or will fate push her toward the Quartermaines whether she wants it or not? And will Brooke Lynn's confession open old wounds, leading her to search for the child she gave up? So many questions remain, and the drama is far from over. What do you guys think? Will any of these fractured relationships be mended, or are we looking at permanent divides? Next, we're diving into one of the most emotional and dramatic episodes to hit Port Charles in a long time. From life-or-death hospital crises to deep-rooted family betrayals, everything is coming to a head. The stakes have never been higher, and tensions are boiling over. So grab a seat, because we have a lot to unpack. Let's break it all down. A hero's battle between life and death. The walls of General Hospital had witnessed countless tragedies, but tonight, the fight to save Lucky Spencer's life was one of the most desperate yet. The beeping monitors had been the only sounds filling the sterile hospital room, until they suddenly stopped. The shrill alarm sent a wave of panic through the hallways, alerting every medical professional nearby. The reality was grim. Lucky's heart had stopped again. Portia and Isaiah rushed into action, their years of training kicking in like clockwork. Every second mattered. Isaiah, ever the cool-headed doctor, grabbed the paddles. "Clear," he shouted, his voice cutting through the tension. Liz stood frozen at the doorway, her hands trembling. Aiden clutched her arm, tears welling up in his young eyes. "He can't die, Mom," he pleaded. "Not now." The battle waged on for what felt like an eternity. Compressions, shocks, desperate glances exchanged between doctors. It was all happening so fast. The outside world seemed to blur, with nothing existing beyond this moment. And then, just as despair threatened to swallow them whole, a miracle happened. A weak but steady beep returned to the monitors. Lucky was back. Portia took a step back, pressing a hand to her chest as relief flooded through her. "He's stable," she announced, barely believing her own words. Isaiah let out a deep breath, shaking his head. "Damn, Lucky," he muttered under his breath. "You really like keeping us on our toes, don't you?" But the danger wasn't completely over. Lucky still had a long road ahead of him, and nobody knew just how much digitalis he had been given. There were still many unknowns, but one thing was certain: he had been given another chance. Guilt, regret, and the shadows of the past. While Lucky's loved ones hovered anxiously around his hospital bed, another emotional storm raged just outside the room. Laura Spencer had spent her entire life carrying the weight of her family's history, but tonight, the burden felt heavier than ever. She sat with Lulu in the hallway, her hands clasped tightly together as she struggled to find the right words. "It's my fault," Laura murmured, barely audible. "Cyrus, he's my brother. If I had done more, maybe none of this would have happened." Lulu, always protective of her mother, shook her head firmly. "No, Mom. None of this is on you. You can't take responsibility for his actions." Laura let out a heavy sigh, her heart torn between logic and emotion. "But think about it," she continued. "If it weren't for Cyrus, you wouldn't have woken up when you did. And yet, Sam wouldn't have died if not for him either." The conflicting emotions were suffocating. Lulu had been given back her life, but at what cost? The weight of that truth was almost too much to bear. Meanwhile, not far from them, Liz and Aiden emerged from Lucky's room. The pain on Aiden's face was impossible to ignore. "Grandma," he whimpered, his voice raw. Dad's heart stopped again. I thought we were going to lose him. Laura immediately pulled him into her arms, holding him close. Oh, sweetheart, she whispered, stroking his hair. He's still fighting. And as long as he's fighting, we hold on to hope. But as she said those words, a chilling realization settled over her. Hope could only take them so far. The rest was out of their hands. Jason Morgan's return sparks chaos at the Quartermaine mansion. Meanwhile, across town at the Quartermaine estate, another battle was unfolding, one not of life and death, but of secrets and consequences. Jason had barely stepped foot into the kitchen when he walked straight into a confrontation. Tracy Quartermaine was standing tall, her piercing gaze locked onto Sasha, who was visibly shaken. "Tell me the truth," Tracy demanded, her voice like steel. "Is Jason the father?" Sasha hesitated for a split second, her fingers curling into fists at her sides. Then, something inside her snapped. "Yes," she spat, her eyes blazing with frustration. "Yes, Jason is the father. Are you happy now?" The words hung in the air like a bomb about to explode. Without waiting for a response, Sasha stormed out, slamming the door behind her. The silence that followed was deafening. Tracy turned to Jason, her expression unreadable. Then, after a beat, a smirk curled at the edges of her lips. "Well," she mused, "I guess congratulations are in order." Jason, ever the composed enigma, remained unreadable. "I take it you're hoping I'll stay," he said evenly. Tracy arched a brow. "Of course. This is Danny's home. He needs stability. And like it or not, Jason, you're one of us." Jason exhaled, nodding slowly. "I won't leave. Not now." For a brief moment, something akin to understanding passed between them. But before the tension could fully ease, Jason's expression darkened. "Drew is coming after me," he admitted. Tracy's eyes narrowed. "Drew is coming after all of us," she corrected. "And if he thinks this family has turned against him, then that makes him the enemy." Jason let the words settle, knowing full well that a storm was coming. And if there was one thing he had learned over the years, it was that in the world of the Quartermaines, alliances were always shifting. Tracy leaned against the counter, watching him closely. "But you're here now," she said, her voice softer than usual. "And that means something." For the first time in a long time, Jason felt something unexpected. He felt like he had come home. What's next for Port Charles? So there you have it, guys, a night of shocking confessions, desperate fights for survival, and shifting alliances that could change everything. What happens next? Will Lucky make a full recovery, or is his fight far from over? Will Laura find a way to move past the guilt weighing on her? And what about Jason? How will he handle the storm brewing with Drew? There are so many unanswered questions, and I want to hear what you guys think. Next, we are diving into a night of chaos, deception, and justice in Port Charles. The lines between right and wrong blur as secrets threaten to unravel, and the consequences of one impulsive action could change everything. Buckle up, because we have a lot to discuss. A dangerous cover-up begins inside Jack's office. Tension crackled in the air like a storm waiting to break. Colette had just arrived, her sharp eyes scanning Jack's face for answers before he even spoke. "Cyrus is dead," he stated flatly, his voice carrying the weight of the truth. Colette inhaled sharply. "What the hell happened?" Jack leaned back against his desk, crossing his arms. "I had no idea Joss was carrying a gun, and now, this mess is ours to clean up." But Colette wasn't convinced this was just about covering up a crime. She glanced toward the closed bathroom door. Joss is a kid, she warned. She won't be able to keep quiet about this forever. She's going to want to tell someone. Jack's expression hardened. Then we make sure she doesn't. As the reality of the situation set in, Colette's mind whirred through the logistics. There's a problem, she said grimly. Cyrus attacked Liz and Lucky tonight, and the whole force is looking for him. It won't take Anna long to track down that cabin. If we don't move fast, they're going to find his body. Jack's jaw tightened as he formulated his next move. You get a team together and clean up that place, he instructed. Make it look like he was never there, except for one thing. Colette nodded, already understanding what he meant. If they wanted to control the narrative, they needed to leave behind a trail that pointed somewhere else. Jocelyn spirals as the reality sets in. Meanwhile, inside the bathroom, Jocelyn stood under the scalding water of the shower, her hands pressed against the cold tile. Her mind was a whirlwind of flashing images, Cyrus lunging at her, the sound of the gunshot, the way his body crumpled to the floor. She had thought she would feel relief. Instead, she felt sick. A sudden wave of nausea overtook her, and she barely made it to the toilet before she emptied the contents of her stomach. The bathroom's harsh fluorescent light made everything feel unreal, as though she were watching herself from a distance. Her hands trembled as she turned off the water, staring at her reflection in the fogged-up mirror. Who was she now? From the other side of the door, Jack's voice was calm but firm. Joss, leave everything in there. Your clothes, your phone. There's a change of clothes for you outside. She swallowed the lump in her throat and did as she was told, knowing there was no turning back. A fatal confrontation at the cabin hours earlier, the cabin deep in the woods had been the scene of the crime. The air had been thick with tension as Jocelyn stood over Cyrus's body, her breath coming in sharp gasps. Jack had been the first to move, kneeling beside the fallen man. He checked for a pulse, but it was already too late. Cyrus was gone. Jocelyn's voice was barely a whisper. He was going to kill me. Jack glanced up at her, his expression unreadable. I know, he said simply. I saw it. Her hands were shaking as she clutched the gun. Should we call the police? Jack's response was immediate. We could. Or we could take care of this ourselves. The implication settled over her like a heavy weight. If they called the police, there would be questions Jocelyn wasn't sure she could answer. Everyone knew she hated Cyrus. Everyone knew she believed he had killed Dex. Would they believe her when she said it was self-defense? Jack could see the doubt in her eyes. If I handle this, he said slowly, nobody can ever know you were here. Not your mother, not your friends. No one. Jocelyn hesitated, then nodded. Jack exhaled. Then we need to leave. Now. The hunt for Cyrus Renaud begins. Meanwhile, across town, Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri were piecing together their own puzzle. Why is Cyrus headed down Route 41? Dante mused. There's nothing out there. Anna, her mind sharp as ever, filled in the blanks. He had to be hiding something. And we know he went after Liz. Dante frowned. Why Liz? Because she and Lucky found the evidence that proved he was the killer, Anna explained. And before he tried to kill her, he admitted everything. Dante ran a hand through his hair, his instincts kicking in. So that's it? He was on some kind of killing spree for a so-called divine mission? Anna's face darkened. That's exactly what he believed. He thought he was releasing trapped souls. And Dex and Sam got in his way. A heavy silence settled between them. They had finally cornered Cyrus Renault after years of cat-and-mouse games. He could run, but he couldn't hide. Just then, Jordan Ashford appeared, her expression urgent. "I just got some new intel," she announced. "Cyrus has a decades-old family connection to the Gatlins." Anna's brow furrowed. "Wait, are we talking about Austin Gatlin Holt? He was murdered, and that case was never solved." Jordan nodded. "And I think we just found out why. I checked property records. Austin owned a cabin near Route 41. Dante immediately grabbed his coat. That's where Cyrus was headed." Anna turned to Jordan. "Keep us updated on Lucky. We have to move now." A night that changed everything back at General Hospital, the weight of the night's events was beginning to settle. Lucky was fighting for his life. Jocelyn was on the run from a crime she wasn't sure she could escape. And Anna and Dante were closing in on a truth that was about to shake Port Charles. But one thing was certain, nothing would ever be the same again. So, what do you guys think? Is Jocelyn going to be able to keep this secret? Will Anna and Dante uncover the truth before Jack can bury it? And what does this mean for Lucky's survival? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest scandals in Port Charles. Next, we're diving deep into one of the most shocking and complex nights in Port Charles history. Secrets, deception, and unexpected revelations have set the stage for an explosive fallout. From a deadly encounter in a secluded cabin to an offer that could change Jocelyn's life forever, let's unravel the twists and turns that left everyone reeling. Buckle up, because this one is wild. The mysterious vanishing act at the cabin. The night air was thick with tension as Anna Devane, Dante Falconeri, and a team of officers approached the isolated cabin. The scent of pine and damp woods surrounded them, but the eerie silence inside the structure was what truly unsettled them. They had expected a crime scene. Instead, they found nothing. Guns drawn, the team moved swiftly, kicking in the door and storming inside. Their eyes darted from wall to wall, scanning for any sign of a struggle. But there was no blood, no body, no visible trace of Cyrus Renault. It was as if the entire event had been erased from existence. Dante exchanged a look with Anna, his jaw tightening. "We're too late," he muttered. Anna, refusing to accept the idea of failure, turned to an officer. "Call in forensics. If Cyrus was here, there will be something that proves it." But deep down, she knew they were up against professionals. Whoever had been here before them had covered their tracks flawlessly. Jocelyn's escape and an offer she never saw coming while the authorities scrambled to uncover what had happened at the cabin. Jocelyn Jacks was living through one of the most intense moments of her life. She stepped out of the bathroom in Jack's office, her damp hair sticking to her skin, her body still trembling from the shock of what she had done. Jack stood near a locked cabinet, where he had carefully bagged the gun and stashed it away. He met her gaze with calculated calm. "What happens now?" Jocelyn asked, her voice almost hollow. Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he leaned against his desk, studying her carefully. "Did you tell anyone where you were going tonight? Does anyone know about that address?" Jocelyn shook her head. "No." "Why?" Then, suspicion flickered across her face. "Why did you give me the address in the first place?" Jack let out a slow breath, his tone cool but deliberate. "You set this in motion the night you asked me for the footage of Dex." Her stomach twisted. She had asked him for security footage, desperately hoping for answers about Dex's fate. "That got me nowhere," she shot back. "There was no footage." Jack's eyes darkened as he pulled out his phone, swiping through his files before turning the screen toward her. There was. Jocelyn's breath hitched. The image on the screen showed Cyrus attacking Dex. Her pulse raced. "Why didn't you take this to the police?" she demanded. Jack smirked. "Because I wanted to see what you would do." Jocelyn took a step back, her mind racing. "Are you playing some kind of game with me? Is this about my mom? Are you doing this because you're into Carly?" Jack sighed, shaking his head. "This has nothing to do with Carly. This is about you." The words sent a chill down Jocelyn's spine. "You're special, Jocelyn," he continued. "You have all the instincts of a great agent. You're fearless, you're smart, and you don't back down. I want you to become one of us." Jocelyn's eyes widened as the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. "This was all a setup," she whispered. "You got me to kill Cyrus just so you could hold it over me, so you could force me to join the WSB. Jack chuckled. "That's a little dramatic, don't you think?" His expression softened just slightly. "I didn't know you had a gun on you, but you brought it." "Why?" "To protect myself." Jocelyn snapped. "And that," Jack said, "is exactly what makes you perfect for this." Jocelyn scoffed. "That doesn't make me a spy." Jack leaned in. "No, but the fact that you act instead of hide does." His words unsettled her. Taking a step back, Jack folded his arms. "Tell me, if Cyrus hadn't attacked you, if he hadn't come at you with that hatchet, would you have still pulled the trigger?" Jocelyn hesitated, her mouth going dry. "I don't know." Jack nodded, satisfied with her answer. "That's why it's good you didn't call the police." Jocelyn swallowed hard. "What happens now?" Jack reached into his pocket and pulled out a set of car keys. "I had your car brought here. There's money inside, enough to buy a new phone. You tell everyone you lost yours. That's your story for tonight." Jocelyn stared at the keys. "And if I don't take your offer?" Jack shrugged. "Then you don't. But I'll protect you anyway." His voice dropped slightly. "You'd make one hell of an agent, Joss. Think about it." As she reached for the keys, he added one last thing. "We'll be in touch." Jocelyn hesitated, then turned on her heel and walked out. Colette's warning and Jack's plan. Just as Jocelyn left, Colette stepped into the office, her expression a mix of disbelief and frustration. She watched the door swing shut behind Jocelyn, then turned to Jack. "That's it?" she asked incredulously. "She just gets to leave?" Jack leaned back, a slow smirk spreading across his lips. "Yes." Colette crossed her arms. "And what happens when she realizes she's in over her head? When she starts talking?" Jack's smirk didn't fade. Instead, he glanced at the door one last time before responding. "When she comes back," he said, "it's better if she thinks it was her idea." The pieces left unraveled. As the night faded into dawn, the ripples of what had transpired spread further than anyone could have predicted. Jocelyn was now holding on to a secret that could destroy her. Jack had made a move that could either secure a powerful ally or create an unpredictable enemy. And Anna and Dante were standing in an empty cabin, determined to uncover the truth before it slipped away for good. One thing was certain, Port Charles would never be the same after this. So what do you guys think? Did Jack manipulate Jocelyn, or did he simply push her toward a path she was always meant to take? Can Joss really keep this secret, or will her conscience get the best of her? And what happens when Anna and Dante get too close to the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest scandals in Port Charles. Until next time, stay dramatic, stay curious, and stay hooked. Next, we're diving into one of the most shocking, suspenseful, and potentially life-changing nights in General Hospital history. A murder cover-up, an offer that could alter Jocelyn Jack's future forever, and the relentless pursuit of justice by Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri. This episode had it all. Stick around because we're about to break down every twist and turn in this thrilling chapter of Port Charles drama. Let's get into it. A game of shadows, Brennan's hidden agenda. As Jocelyn walked away from the life-altering crime scene, Brennan leaned against his desk in his dimly lit office, watching her departure through the window. His assistant stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You're just letting her go?" she questioned, her tone laced with doubt. Brennan smirked, shaking his head slightly. "Yes," he answered, his voice calm and confident. "And when she comes back, it has to be her idea." There was an undeniable certainty in his words, as if he had played this game 100 times before. Brennan knew Jocelyn better than she realized. He had been watching, analyzing her every move since the night she began her desperate search for the truth about Dex. Now, after a whirlwind of chaos, she had finally seen the world for what it truly was, a place where the rules don't always apply, where justice and morality blur into something far more complex. And Brennan? He had been waiting for her to see that. Jocelyn's moment of reckoning. Meanwhile, Jocelyn was still reeling from the night's events. As she gripped the keys Brennan had given her, her pulse pounded in her ears. She was free to go. No threats, no strings attached, just a quiet, unnerving promise that her secret was safe. But at what cost? She had spent so long chasing the truth about Dex, desperate for answers, believing that somehow, bringing down Cyrus Renault would bring her closure. And yet, as she drove away from the office, her hands tightening around the steering wheel, she realized she felt no relief. No satisfaction. Only a sinking, gnawing dread. Because Brennan had been right about one thing, she had what it took. She had acted on instinct, not hesitation. And she knew, deep down, that part of her liked it. The question was, what did that mean for her future? The cabin that held all the answers, and none at all. While Joss wrestled with her own fate, Anna Devane and Dante Falconeri were chasing a trail that had already gone cold. The drive to the remote cabin had been quiet, both of them lost in their own thoughts. Dante gripped the wheel tightly, eyes trained on the dark road ahead. "Why here?" he finally asked, breaking the silence. Anna exhaled slowly, her mind racing. Cyrus was careful, but he was desperate. "He knew we were closing in, and this cabin," she paused, glancing at the map on her phone, "this is where the trail leads." When they arrived, the night was eerily still. Flashlights cut through the darkness as they approached the structure, weapons drawn. They kicked in the door, ready for anything. What they found was nothing. The place was immaculate. No blood. No signs of struggle. No evidence that a murder had occurred just hours before. Dante let out a sharp breath, frustration simmering beneath the surface. Someone cleaned this place top to bottom. Anna scanned the room, her mind working faster than her pulse. "Forensics might still find something," she said, though she knew this wasn't a mistake. This was deliberate. Someone had wiped away every single trace of what had happened here. And that meant someone had something to hide. The choice that changed everything. Hours earlier, Jocelyn had stood in that very same cabin, staring down at the lifeless body of Cyrus Renault. Her hands had trembled, the gun feeling heavier than it had moments before. The echoes of the gunshot still rang in her ears. The sight of his unmoving form, the blood seeping into the wooden floor, was burned into her mind. Then, the door had opened. Brennan had walked in, his expression unreadable. He hadn't demanded an explanation. He hadn't looked surprised. Instead, he had simply observed. "I saw everything," he told her. Jocelyn's breath had hitched. "Then I know that you had no choice," he interrupted smoothly. "But now you do have a choice." And that's when he had laid it all out for her. She could call the police. She could turn herself in, tell them everything, throw herself at the mercy of the law. Or she could let him handle it. The WSB could make it all disappear, erase every shred of evidence. And in return? Nothing. No debt to pay, no favors to owe. At least, that's what he claimed. Jocelyn had hesitated, searching his face for any sign of deception. Was he serious? Was this real? "Why?" she finally asked. "Why are you doing this? You knew all along that Cyrus killed Dex, why didn't you stop him?" Brennan's eyes darkened. His response was calm but calculated. "I wanted to see what you would do." The words hit her harder than she expected. He had let her fall into this situation. Had let her struggle, fight, kill, just to see if she was capable of it. And now, he was offering her a way out. Or maybe, just maybe, he was offering her something else entirely. A beginning. A future at the WSB? Now, as Jocelyn drove through the quiet streets of Port Charles, her mind replayed the night over and over again. The shot. The cleanup. The choice Brennan had given her. And the offer. "You have what it takes," he had said. To be something more. The words clung to her, refusing to let go. This wasn't about blackmail. It wasn't about manipulation. This was about power. Control. For the first time in her life, Jocelyn wasn't just reacting to events around her, she was shaping them. And that terrified her. Because the truth was, she would be back. Not because Brennan forced her. But because she wanted to be. What's next for Jocelyn? So, what do you guys think? Should Jocelyn join the WSB? Was Brennan truly testing her, or was this all just a setup from the beginning? And what happens when Anna and Dante get too close to the truth? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest General Hospital scandals. Until next time, stay dramatic, stay curious, and stay hooked.
Thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.